Imagine a scenario. You're excited to start fresh and build better habits. At first, you're consistent, pushing through the challenges, showing up every single day. It feels good. But then, life starts getting in the way. One day, you're too tired after work. Another, you just want to scroll through social media or binge watch that TV show you've been waiting years for. Skipping one day won't hurt, you tell yourself. And it doesn't, at first. But then it happens again, and again. Slowly, the days you skip start to outweigh the days you show up. You wake up each morning promising to get back on track, but deep down, you're losing trust in yourself. Sounds familiar, right? I've been tracking my habits since 2019, and not even once have I managed to be completely consistent. I know that being consistent all the time is not realistic, but that was what I was expecting from myself. I thought that if I have a habit to track, then I need to show up every single day. And even if I skip one day, it means I have failed. I know that I am not alone in this perfectionistic mindset. So I made a shift. Now, instead of tracking my habits in an app or in a journal, I just add those events to my calendar. If it's on my calendar, it happened. And if it's not, it means I skipped. This approach feels lighter and less judgmental. It helps me to reframe my expectations around habits. The reason why I stopped tracking my habits in a traditional way is because over time, it started to feel exhausting. When I saw that I was skipping days, sometimes a couple of days in a row, I felt really bad about myself. Even one skipped day felt like a failure, despite being consistent for weeks or even months before that. That all or nothing thinking was directly tied to perfectionism, and it was holding me back. Here's the truth. All or nothing thinking is not useful when it comes to habit formation. When you tell yourself, I will exercise for 90 minutes, I will read books, I will meditate, and I will do it every single day, it sounds very ambitious, and it's even motivating at first. However, life happens. There will always be days when you're too tired, too busy, or just not in the right headspace. And when that inevitable skip happens, it can feel like everything is ruined. In fact, there is a psychological concept called the planning fallacy. It describes how we tend to underestimate the time, effort, and resources required to complete a task. People generally expect things to go smoothly and focus on the best-case scenarios, overlooking obstacles. Setting unrealistic goals leads to a lot of negative emotions, including anxiety, stress, and burnout. If you plan something and don't do it, over time, you start to lose confidence in yourself and your own reliability. Because you keep making promises only to end the day realizing that you haven't done anything. You start to identify as someone who quits, and that identity is a heavy burden to carry. If you quit enough times, quitting is no longer just a possibility when you start a new goal. It's your identity, and that feels terrible. This video is about breaking free from that mindset. It's about understanding that progress is more important than perfection. I want to talk about mindset shifts that can help you build habits in a more sustainable and realistic ways. Perfectionism is the enemy of habit building. Here's the thing, the reason why we can't stick to our habits is because we expect ourselves to do them perfectly. Let's imagine you want to exercise and you need an hour to do that. And when you don't have that hour, you just skip the whole thing. But what if you exercised for 15 minutes instead? I know that a lot of people might say, well, 15 minutes is nothing, what's the point? But that's just not true. What actually matters is showing up. Whether you read 100 pages or just one page, you opened a book and you did something, and that's still progress. And here's the cool part. Those small efforts add up over time. The compounding effect is real. Even tiny steps every day are better than doing nothing. But we make things so much harder for ourselves. Like, some people think that listening to audiobooks does not count as reading. Or they will say, if I don't meditate for 20 minutes, then the day is a waste and it doesn't count. Instead, they could just meditate for 5 minutes and that's fine. Honestly, that kind of thinking just gets in the way. Instead of focusing on those small details, focus on progress. Whenever I take it easy and allow myself to do less, but still count it as done, habit formation becomes surprisingly easy. It almost feels like cheating, but actually it's not. Making your goals manageable and letting go of unrealistic expectations is actually a healthy way to build habits. Stop assuming that introducing new habits into your life is supposed to be painful and challenging. Building new habits can feel extremely fun. You just need to let go of your perfectionism. What we get wrong about habits. Habit tracking is not about how many days you can stick to a habit. Sure, it might be very motivating to say that you did something for 31 days, but in reality, those numbers are really arbitrary. People often say that you need 21 days to form a habit. This idea comes from Dr. Maxwell Maltz, a plastic surgeon and author of the book Psychocybernetics. He noticed that it would typically take 21 days for his patients to get used to their new appearance, but it was just an observation, not a rule. Somehow, it got exaggerated into the belief that it takes exactly 21 days in order to build a habit. In reality, this idea is not backed up by any scientific evidence. In fact, a 2009 study on habit formation found that it takes on average about 66 days to form a new habit. And it depends on the individual. It might take you more or less time. So when you set goals and you want to stick to a habit for a particular amount of days, keep in mind that it's not scientifically proven. If you've drawn portraits for 100 days and you skip day 101, it doesn't mean that your skill is gone. Every day you do something is progress, and if you skip one day, it doesn't mean that you have failed. In fact, that kind of mindset leads to quitting and stagnation, and it's not productive for you. I know this from experience. I have stopped drawing many times simply because I couldn't stay consistent all the time. Now looking back, I wish I'd kept going, even if it wasn't regular or perfect. My skills would have been so much better if I hadn't quit every 5 seconds. Listen, I'm not saying you should skip days whenever you feel like it or make excuses. What I'm trying to say is that you should probably try to find a balance between consistency and flexibility. There will always be days when conditions aren't right, and that's fine. What helps me is to follow the never miss twice rule. It basically means that you can skip a habit for more than one day. Instead of blaming yourself and feeling guilty, reflect on why you skipped a day without judgment. Look for patterns and try to identify what's causing you to fall off track. Blaming yourself doesn't help. Understanding the root of the problem and solving it does. You can use journals, habit trackers, or apps to build streaks and stay motivated, but don't let them define your self-worth or your progress. If there's one thing I want you to take from this video, is that your perfectionism shouldn't ruin your habit building process. You don't have to be perfect. At the end of the day, done is always better than perfect. To wrap things up, building habits is not about being perfect. It's about showing up even on the days when things don't go perfectly. The key is consistency, not rigidity. Small actions, even if imperfect, add up over time. So let go of your all or nothing thinking and instead focus on progress. You don't need to hit all of your goals every single day, and skipping a day doesn't mean that you have failed. Just keep going and you will build habits that will stick. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.